We are Mr. and Mrs. Anani Sunday. So,
All
so we got
right.
married some 4 years ago. That was in 2016, April 2016. So we are getting close to 5 years in marriage. We have a daughter. Her name is Victoria Ayomide
Adonfe.
Adefe.
Um, Views about marriage. Actually, I had some experiences around me that were not too palatable. So I was kind of scared of marriage initially. I had a friend that always voiced my concerns too. And then gradually when Sunday came on board, the fears kind of fizzled out. So I knew right from the start that marriage with Sunday was going to be very blissful. Although, we still kind of we still have our doubts, make some kind of checks spiritually, and when your faith is kind of when your faith is wavering, even though this is God in it, but eventually down inside of me, I know that marriage is going to be sweet with Sunday.
Exactly. Well, for me, what view did I have about marriage? I needed somebody to share time with. So the view I had about marriage is that of companionship, relationship, communication, growth, and mentorship of one another, friendship. So I think I have all of this in my marriage. Yes, I can say that. I also looked forward to sex. I'm somebody I'm a man, and I don't know, I liked sexual intimacy, so I looked forward to it so much. So when we got married, because I had this expectation in mind, I had this view in mind. I was expecting, for example, sexual life to be great, but when we got married, realities came upon us, and then you realize that sometimes you may be tired. You do not even want anybody to touch you. You do not want anything to even come close to you. You just want to have your space. And so I began to make little adjustments. So for somebody like me that felt before marriage that, anytime I would just like to go into sexual intimacy or be around my spouse and all of that, it's not so. There are times, like you said before now, that you may just want to be alone. You may just want to have your own space. It does not mean that you do not want to share your time or space with your spouse. So even in marriage, there are times I will feel, can you just let me be? But it's all about making adjustments so that you will still be able to meet the needs of your spouse. Let me give you a very practical example. Before we got married, even though we talked a lot, we discussed a lot, we didn't talk about a situation whereby we'll be away from each other for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, a month. And so when we got married in April 2016, she hadn't worked. She had done her BSc, she had done her master's, but she had not worked.
I had no experience at all.
She had no work experience. Let me just put it that way. So, but before she got married, she was already. She had an application with Nestle, and then Nestle Nigeria. Then she was called up after our wedding rather, and then she was so enthusiastic about it. She wanted to go, but we didn't talk about anything like that. What if? I don't think we discussed that. What if work takes you away from me? All our thoughts was we're going to be together. Now, she needed to do it. She so much looked forward to that experience. But again, we're looking at, then we're in Lagos, and the job was going to take her outside Lagos, not even Southwest. The job was going to take her as far as, I think, Gombe.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Gombe.
So supposed to be Gombe. Then later on, they redeployed her to Jos. Look at the distance. That was a lot. And then we were young. We married in April, and that was coming in February. And I didn't want to stand in her way because I was already working. I could understand she was always alone at home. So she needed that space, that time, that kind of exposure. And so, well, I accepted, and then she had to
reluctantly.
Go. Well, not really reluctant. I wanted you to actually have your say, So I allowed her, to go for it. But after she left, and then I went to put up with a friend of mine, because what's the point going to a very far place when I could stay with a friend who was also a single at that time? And then I stayed there. Sorry, I'll be very frank in this video. I will tell you that I began to miss my wife to the point that I started having nocturnal emission. A married man. I started having nocturnal emission. And then I will call her and say, no, I can't take this again. I don't forget my answer to one of the last questions. Sexual intimacy was one of my biggest expectations. And so what? I couldn't take it. She didn't spend 2 months. Did you say not to 2 months?
You didn't allow me to.
By the way,
focus.
Will you listen? By the way, she equally wasn't finding it funny. Why? We're just young. You're young and married, less than a year, and then we are going to be separated because of work. So it was not easy. She was missing me. I was missing her. So we didn't prepare for that kind of development. Mm-hmm. And so, unfortunately, she had to leave the job. So I remember that when she was still there was a time she came to Lagos for a conference, for a training. When I saw her, hey, Jesus! It was as if she was so beautiful. I could not wait to get home. And when I got home, then I need to say what happened. So it was, we didn't prepare for all of that. So it was, but although anyway, it was great. It made us to appreciate ourselves the more. And well, if you ask me, I don't think I can't allow that again. I'm sorry. And
I can't allow that for you too.
Oh, well, we both want to be close. So that's it. I hope we answered that question.
It was sexual intimacy. For me, it was majorly this fear that kind of fizzled out. So how I prepared in that sense was that I asked questions a lot. I asked questions that were so very important to me, questions that I needed answers to clear my doubt. Needless to say that my husband is from a pagan family. So I had this fear in me that I just hope my marriage will be very blissful with him, even though he's from a pagan family. So based on that, I asked questions a lot.
Okay. Let me help you a little.
Okay.
Because I was coming from a very different background. She's Yoruba, I'm Togolese. My parents, most of my family members are not Christian, but I am. God saved me. So she had fears. Because she had fears, I can remember our courtship. Mm-hmm. She used to ask a lot of questions.
So much.
So because she had a lot of questions to answer, I had the responsibility to explain.
Yeah.
So those questions were coming from, will I say, a fearful heart. And I needed to clear her doubt. And I can remember. Those answers I gave to her helped her to be very comfortable. Now, to my own side, she was a virgin even before we got married. So she was a novice, and we were both entering this whole thing, and we were so expectant. So one thing we did that helped us a lot, maybe that reduced tension, was to discuss sex.
Yes, we did.
We talked about sex. We discussed it. We talked about our sexual expectation. These are not discussions that people hold often. Some couples don't. Some very Christian, in quotes. They don't talk about sex. Well, I wouldn't know. Maybe they do. Don't let me just generalize. But we did. We really did. We really did. We talked about sex. Okay, what do you expect? What would you like to be done to you? So those things really prepared our mind. So we're not just entering blank. All the same, after we still got married and then we got to meet each other face to face, we were still very clumsy. But the fact that we have talked about it, we've spoken a lot about it, we've talked about what we like and all of that, it helped us to a little extent. So the answer is simple. Number one, we discussed a lot. That's for our side. She has a lot of questions and I answered most, and in fact, nearly all of our questions as much as I could to clear her doubt, to allay her fears. And then from my side, we talked a lot about what we would like to be done to each other even before we got into marriage. Those are things that really helped us in preparation for marriage.
I think even though I didn't enter marriage with the thought of getting pregnant so soon, I kind of wanted to wait out for some months before we started trying for pregnancy. So it happened that it wasn't coming. I was wondering what could be the cause. When you began to start testing and it's coming up negative all the time, and it's spanning to months, I was wondering what could be the cause. Even began to get concerned, and then actually, what I thought was going to be a walk in the park, I was even trying to defer, happened to span into several months, and we had to wait for more than 2 years before it came along. So for me, I really didn't think that I was going to wait that long to get pregnant.
Let me help you. Let me help you. I'll rescue you.
Okay, no problem.
We were not. That was, I said we discussed a lot during our courtship. We talked about sex. So there was a time I remember very well. We were talking about what about, okay, sex, and then what if you just get, I think it was even a concern that what if we just get married and start having sex and I just take in that's for her and we won't be able to enjoy each other again, blah, blah, blah. That was our thoughts that, okay, that could happen. But into marriage and we realized that pregnancy wasn't coming on time. We didn't even use whatever, we're just enjoying ourselves, yet it wasn't coming. So I think one of the things that we didn't really prepare our mind for was delay. We didn't expect it. But I must say something. When we were still courting, I used to have that, will I call it the nudge that there may be delay. So whenever we were praying then, I used to mention it in prayer. But we still came into it and we faced it. God had a reason for it. And so one of the things she did that really helped her was to go on a learning spree. She was really learning. She was trying to discover what was really, really wrong. Whether what could be the issue, and good enough, she could find support, in support groups online, WhatsApp, Facebook, and then she got to know, okay, this is what the issue is, and then we started hospital visit, laboratory visit, and all of that. So let me just say that an advice I will give there is that couples, especially young couples, if you come into marriage and of course we are expecting pregnancy as soon as you get into marriage and it is not happening immediately, number one thing you should avoid is panic. You need to avoid panic as much as possible. I'm not a medical doctor, but I know that thing can arrest your body system. So avoid panic as much as possible and then begin to seek knowledge immediately. Don't wait, because whatever is bad already, the more you leave it unattended to, the worse it gets. So begin to seek knowledge, and don't just seek knowledge, blindly. Seek that knowledge from the right source. And also don't forget the place of prayer. That one is above it all. You don't want to forget the place of prayer. We're expecting it, we're not seeing it. One very bad thing that I did then was that I wasn't very responsive to our emotions. Men could be, most men are hard. Most men can take things and still be fine. But women are very emotional beings, right? They little things and you find them crying, you find them, coiling up and all of that. So I didn't really respond to her emotional needs very well at that time. She expressed our disappointment at the way things were then. My response used to be very cold. I could just say, can you remind me one thing? Maybe I would just say a very dry response. Instead of me to give her comforting words.
Just okay.
Okay, yeah. I'll just say,
I went to the lab, I did this.
Okay.
And it's negative. Okay.
She's telling me she did this. She was telling me she did this. I went to this. And I would just say, okay, maybe, okay, God will help us. No encouragement, no comforting words. My shoulder was not even there for her to rest on. those were my mistakes. So when there is a challenge, particularly as relating to, pregnancy in the marriage, both couples would need to really be there for one another. There is a need for there's no support that is bigger than the one your spouse can give you at that time. And that can come in form of words of encouragement, emotional support, praying for your spouse, praying wherever the challenge is coming from, whether from one party or both of you, you have to be prayerful. And then one other thing I will advise on, she will also say we're thinking that, we're so enthusiastic. Oh, yeah, Timmy will soon come home. Timmy will soon come home. And then we're so set. And then when we got married, we began to have little issues, frictions over little things. Why did you say it that way? Or why did you carry it down that way? Why did you? These are normal things. So if you get into marriage and you find yourself that you are having quarrels over that are looking very inconsequential, it is later that you will see them as inconsequential. By the time those things are happening to you, you will think this is a big deal. This is a big deal. But if you are able to, come out of that months and years ahead of you, afterward rather, you will be able to say that, oh, I don't even know why was I making a fuse about that very inconsequential thing. So be tolerable. You have to permit some things that may come from your spouse. I remember then, whenever we had a disagreement, for me, I was very annoyed. What kind of thing is this? And I'm very apologetic. I can apologize for the word. And my problem then was that whatever I apologize for, do I still do that?
You still do.
So whatever I apologize for at times, I will go back and do it again.
And it can be very annoying.
Very annoying, really. So I used to do it a lot then. I apologize. I'll go back to it. I apologize. I'll go back to it. They began to think, this guy, is anybody remote controlling you? So you have to really, really be forgiving. And then understand that, for me, we are just different in a way. If she wrongs me, she apologizes. That is all. Otepari. I'm speaking Yoruba. That's the end. And I'm back to full force again. But for her, when I offend her and I apologize and she forgives me, it takes her time to come back. She doesn't just come back to bubbling with life again. But for me, the moment she apologizes, it's off my mind. Maybe I'm thinking of my business online. Let me go and sort it out. Right? So we should be able to we have to appreciate the differences that exist between us, even though we are couples. So that's my approach. She may have a word or two to us for her.
My advice is that they should be forgiving. Like if a spouse wrongs you, be ready to forgive. I think that was one of my shortcomings then.
Let me come in.
That's one of my shortcomings.
Let me come in. You see, at that time, if I apologize to my wife.
It's one of my shortcomings then.
Before she will forgive me.
But I'm better now. Of course,
I'll come there. No, she's better. But at that time, in the early months of the marriage, in fact, I'll be getting ready to go and sleep. My wife will now begin to sing. She will begin to sing on the bed. What is this? It was annoying.
Oh my God.
But like she was saying, forgiveness is very paramount.
Very key. And then aside that, of course, forgiveness is very, very key. The other party should understand that they should wait it out. It's not always easy for you to, like you said, repetitive, unpleasant behavior. It can be annoying.
Very annoying.
More often than not, my husband will even go on his knees, apologize, and sometimes it moves me. But I just wish that it doesn't have to repeat itself again. But more often than not, it will repeat itself, and I'm like, what is the essence of this apology if it will repeat itself?
Some people were controlling me. I did not know too, but I think I'm delivered now.
So forgiveness, and then the other party should also understand that forgiveness, even though we immediately voice it out, it might take a while.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
let them think it through. Let them recover from it. Allow them to. It doesn't mean that they are keeping malice. Just allow them to. And then patience. My husband is a very patient type. He's very patient with me. So, and I think it shouldn't be a one-sided thing. If the husband is patient, the wife too should try and be patient. If it is the wife that is naturally patient, the husband should learn that virtue too. So patience, forgiveness keeps a marriage going.
Very important. Very important. I just wrote, it's titled My Marriage, My Walk.
Yes.
And so the reason I chose that title, when I say I am also talking about my wife, because we were discussing it, she was advising me, pray about it and all of that, and then finally we arrived at that title. I see marriage as a job. I see marriage as an employment. So the subtitle of that book is How I Became an Employee in Marriage. I see myself as an employee in marriage because I see marriage as an institution, and it is indeed. I see it as a company, and it is a company indeed, a company of two people. And I see it as a situation whereby God, who created the company, had us admitted or had us employed to work in the company. I know if you work in any company, it is your duty to do the job. You have job description, and if you do not do the job, there will be trouble. And of course, in the conventional world, if you do not do the job, you are fired, right? But in marriage, you do not want to be fired. We don't believe in separation. We don't believe in divorce and say, sorry, I can't do it again with you again, so get out. But we believe that it's our job to make the marriage work. So I went into that book on the back of education. I realized that there is a gap, there is a dearth of quality material, on what marriage really is. Many young people are looking at marriage from the outside. They are looking at marriage from behind the curtain. So, but in this book, I've taken my time to draw the curtain away and say, come, take a view, look at this, walk around and see what marriage is really like. So I answered the question of, should I ever marry? Some people are wondering if they should really marry. And then I answered the question of, if I'm turned down, what should I do? A lot of things that couples need to learn. Singles and couples alike, particularly young couples, I've discussed a lot in that book. And one of the highlights of that book is the stories that I used in writing the book. And they are not theoretical, few theories, but a lot of stories to really drive home the point, because that is what people need to know. Yeah. And I believe that any hand that grabs the book will have their hearts blessed. I have a website for the book. I can share the link with you, but I can just, the website is just www.mymarriagemywalk.com, no space, www.mymarriagemywalk.com. The website is mymarriagemywalk.com.